Good morning and welcome to Trinity.
Whether you're joining us in person or online, we're thankful you've chosen to worship the Lord with us today.
Here's what you need to be aware of this week.
Our mission team left yesterday and is now on the field serving in Costa Rica. Thank you for keeping them in your prayers this week as they help with some construction projects, assist in running a vacation Bible school, and do various other forms of ministry. Pastor Mike will also be speaking this morning at the host church in Gracia, while other members of our team serve in the children's church ministry. I know the team also appreciates our ongoing prayers for safety for their families back here at home, as well as for the people to come to know Jesus. The team returns Saturday evening.
The youth group will be hosting a parents' date night this evening, July 20th, from 5:30 to 7. Free babysitting will be provided in the Family Life Center. What a great ministry to provide you and your spouse a little time to yourselves. Please reach out to Pastor Theory if you have any questions.
If you are new or fairly new to Trinity, our next Meet the Pastors gathering will be next Sunday evening, July 27th at 6 o'clock in the dining room. Light snacks will be provided and you'll have an opportunity to get to know our church staff a little better. If you have any questions about this event, please contact the church office.
Our next baptism service is also scheduled for next Sunday, July 27th. If you would like to be added to the list of those being baptized that day, please contact Pastor Mike or Pastor Lee. Our Fall Revival Planning Team will also meet on Sunday, July 27th at 4:30 p.m. If you are on that team and have any questions, please reach out to Jerry Cade.
Trinity is also hosting a baby shower for the Ladd family in the dining room of the Family Life Center from 4 to 6 p.m. today, July 20th. The family is registered at Walmart. For more information, you may contact the church office.
Our ESL, or English as a Second Language Ministry, will be having an interest meeting on Monday evening, August 4th at 6 p.m. If you are interested in serving in this multicultural ministry, they need lead teachers and assistant teachers who will provide essential support in various classrooms. They also need child care volunteers. If you have any questions about this meeting or how you can serve in the ESL ministry, please reach out to Sherry Davenport.
School is getting ready to start back in just a couple of weeks, and we are praying for students, teachers, and faculty. May the 2025-2026 school year be seen as an opportunity not just to learn, but to reach more people for Jesus as we share our stories with those around us.
Be sure to read the bulletin or newsletter for more information on these events and other things going on around the church.
If you're a visitor with us today or would like to sign up to receive our newsletter, please be sure to fill out one of our connection cards in your bulletin and drop it in the offering box as you leave. Thank you for joining us at Trinity this morning. What's your story?
Good morning. We're so glad to see you here this morning. Would you stand and worship with us, please?
So here it is, my alabaster heart. I'm keeping nothing back from who you are. No hidden treasure veiled by key or lock. You're a lifetime worth of worship, and that's only just the start. Here it is, my every waking day. The minutes, hours, the years of endless grace. For you're worthy far beyond all I could say. There's a lifetime worth of worship in the nuance of your name. Let it rise like incense, my whole life, a fragrance every ounce, here broken at your feet, and every breath an offering, my heart cries, my lungs sing over you. How could I not bring a lifetime worth of worship to you, God? Let it rise like incense, my whole life, a fragrance every ounce, here broken at your feet. In every breath and offering, my heart cries, these lungs sing over you, my worthy King of Kings. So let it rise like incense, my whole life, a fragrance every ounce, here broken at your feet. In every breath and offering, my heart cries, these lungs sing over you, my worthy King of Kings. Oh my love, oh my love, oh my love, you can have it all. Oh my love, oh my love, oh my love, you can have it all. Oh my heart, oh my soul, all I own, you can have it all. Oh my heart, oh my soul, all I own, you can have it all. Oh my love, oh my love, oh my love, you can have it all. Oh my love, oh my love, oh my love, you can have it all. Oh my heart, oh my soul, all I own, you can have it all. Oh my heart, oh my soul, all I own, you can have it all. Oh my love, oh my love, oh my love, you can have it all. Oh my love, oh my love, oh my love, you can have it all. Oh my heart, oh my soul, all I own, you can have it all. Oh my heart, oh my soul, all I own, you can have it all. You can have it all. So let it rise like incense, my whole life, a fragrance every ounce, here broken at your feet. In every breath and offering, my heart cries, these lungs sing over you, my worthy King of Kings.
Would you step out in the aisle and just greet someone this morning that you haven't seen in a while?
Thank you.
Christ is my firm foundation, the rock on which I stand when everything around me is shaken. I've never been more glad that I put my faith in Jesus, 'cause He's never let me down. He's faithful through generations. So why would He fail now? He won't. He won't. I I still got joy in chaos. I've got peace that makes no sense, so I won't be going under. I'm not held by my own strength, 'cause I've built my life on Jesus. He's never let me down. He's faithful in every season. So why would he fail now? He won't. He won't. He won't fail. He won't fail. Christ is my firm foundation, the rock on which I stand when everything around me is shaken. I've never been more glad that I put my faith in Jesus, 'cause he's never let me down. He's faithful through generations. So why would he fail now? He won't. He won't. He won't fail. He won't fail. Rain came, wind blew, but my house was built on you. I'm safe with you. I'm gonna make it through. Rain came, wind blew, but my house was built on you. I'm safe with you, and I'm gonna make it through. Rain came, wind blew, but my house was built on you. I'm safe with you, and I'm gonna make it through. I'm gonna make it through, 'cause I'm standing strong on you. I'm gonna make it through, 'cause my house is built on you. Christ is my firm foundation, the rock on which I stand when everything around me is shaken. I've never been more glad that I put my faith in Jesus, 'cause he's never let me down. He's faithful through generations. So why would he fail now? He won't. He won't. He won't fail. He won't fail. He won't. He won't. He won't fail. He won't fail. He won't. He won't. He won't fail. He won't fail.
I love you, Lord. Oh, your mercy never fails me. And all my days I've been held in your hand. From the moment that I wake up until I lay my head, oh, I will sing of the goodness of God. 'Cause all my life you have been faithful, and all my life you have been so, so good. With every breath that I am able, oh, I will sing of the goodness of God. I love your voice. You have led me through the fire, and in darkest night, you are close like no other. I've known you as a father, I've known you as a friend, and I have lived in the goodness of God. And all my life you have been faithful, and all my life you have been so, so good. With every breath that I am able, oh, I will sing of the goodness of God. Yes, 'cause your goodness is running after, it's running after me. Your goodness is running after, it's running after me. With my life laid down, I surrender now. I give you everything. Your goodness is running after, it's running after me. Your goodness is running after, it's running after me. Your goodness is running after, it's running after me. With my life laid down, I surrender now. I give you everything. Your goodness is running after, it's running after me. And all my life you have been faithful. And all my life you have been so, so good. With every breath that I am able, oh, I will sing of the goodness of God. Let's lift that up one more time. And all my life you have been faithful, and all my life you have been so, so good. With every breath that I am able, oh, I will sing of the goodness of God. Oh, I'm gonna sing of the goodness of God.
Lord, we thank you so much for offering us this time of worship. And I pray that as the message is delivered to us, you would open our hearts and minds to the words that you would have us hear this morning, to the message that you would lay on our hearts. I just pray that in every moment this week and ongoing, Lord, that you would just impress upon us the need to lay down everything and just allow you to be the thing that we're concerned with. That our love for you would be poured out upon those around us, the situations that we face, and that we would allow you to do a mighty work in and around us. Lord, thank you so much for being in our midst this morning. I pray that you would keep us mindful that you are here right now. Lord, I pray these things in your name.
So I have been reminded by at least one parent, kids are welcome to go see Miss Sherry over at the Double Doors. You can be dismissed for the children's ministry. I'll be honest, the parent was my wife. But all the other parents were like, thank you, Jim's wife. So obviously, Pastor Mike is not here. Pastor Mike, Pastor Lee, and a team are overseas on a missions trip right now. And let me just say that if you have never had the opportunity to go on a short-term trip, I would encourage you to consider doing that. It will impact your faith just as much or even more than it impacts the people that you get to go serve. If you are a parent and have kids, I would encourage you to consider taking your kids on a missions trip. I had the opportunity to take my daughter to Romania earlier this summer for her first trip overseas, and it was very impactful both on her and on me and on the rest of the people that we visited there. My name is Jim Hansen. I don't get to preach here very often. If you've been to one of the Meet the Pastors nights, there's one coming up, I think it's next week, Sunday evening. I don't even go to those. I lead a house church that meets on Sunday evenings, and so it's a church plant that's associated here with Trinity, and so I'm not here very often, but they've asked me to be here. Mike did since they were out of town. He asked me to continue our study on the book of Job, so we're going to jump back into that. So if you have a copy of the scriptures with you today, I encourage you to open it up to the book of Job. We're going to land on Job chapter 19. So if you want to turn there, you can. If you don't have a copy of the scriptures, here's what I'm going to ask for you. In the weeks to come, consider bringing one. It's important for you to have a copy of the scriptures with you. You get to follow along. You get to read the things that we're going to read. You get to then be familiar a little bit with the passage on the page in your copy, so when you go home and you open it up, you can go back to that same spot and it'll be a little familiar to you. And we all want to fact check Pastor Mike. And so make sure you have your copy to do that. So we'll be in chapter 19 in a second, but first, let me tell you a quick story. Some years ago, I had the opportunity to be a youth pastor at a church up in Tennessee. It was the first church that I was a youth pastor at. I worked at a few different churches. At this particular church, it was a larger youth group, and we decided to take the teenagers on a missions trip down to Florida. So we rented buses, and we took 50 plus teenagers along with adults and all of our workers, and we went down to Florida, and we partnered with something called the Billy Graham Crusade. Billy Graham led these crusades or services in different places around the country and the world, where he would bring the gospel to people and invite people in the community to come and hear for their lives to be radically changed. And as volunteers for this particular Billy Graham crusade or these services, our role first off was each day we would walk around in the city. We were assigned neighborhoods. We would go door to door, knocking on doors and telling people who Billy Graham was and inviting them to come to this service that was going to happen in the evening. And it happened each day of that week that we were there. Also at the doors, we would pray for people, ask if there's any needs, see if we could do anything to help them. But that was what our role was, to try to invite people to come to these services that happened every night. On top of that, then in the evenings, we attended these services and we were the counselors. And what that meant was when someone was there, if they gave their life to Christ, when when Billy Graham would present the gospel and they walked forward to pray to accept Christ, our team was trained to go find the people walking forward and go walk with them. And we would stand up front with them as they prayed. And then afterwards, we would have a follow-up conversation and take down all their information on a card that would then be given to a local church so that church could follow up with that individual sometime that week. So they didn't just hear from God, accept him in their life, and then that was it. There was follow-up that these churches did. One of the things that they did for all the volunteers, and this was kind of a fun thing for our teenagers, is one night they had a special concert just for the volunteers that were at this crusade. And so we took our entire group to this concert. It was like 3,000 people that were volunteers that were all a part of this one concert. And the artist they brought in, his name was Todd Agnew. Back in the day, he was a Christian worship leader artist. I don't even know if he's still around anymore. But so Todd Agnew was leading the worship from up front. And some of the songs were very worship-driven songs. We're singing to God. Some of the other songs, it's more of like the jump up and down and a little bit more energy. And so our group, there was our 50-plus adults. We were on the left side, kind of near the front. No standing room only, no chairs. We're standing up near the front, maybe like 8 or 10 people deep in the crowd. Right in front of us was this massive speaker system that made it so that you couldn't hear anything other than what was coming out of that speaker. It was kind of like right in our ears. But we're standing there, and we're just enjoying this concert. The teenagers are getting into it, jumping up and down, having a good time. About halfway through the concert, they had some security guards up front, and one of them on the side works his way around the edge to the side where our group was. And he's standing on the side of the crowd, and he starts yelling at us. And we can't really hear him because there's this huge speaker and the band's playing. But eventually, I kind of realize he's yelling at me. And I'm like, why is security yelling at me? And so eventually I figure out he's yelling, "Get off his shoulders." I'm like looking around like, I don't see someone on shoulders. Get off his shoulders. And I realize I'm 6'10". And so I'm standing there in this crowd with these teenagers, and I'm way above all of them. And the security guard actually thought I was on someone's shoulders in the crowd. So I kind of turned to him, and I was like, what do you want me to do? And he realized, okay, this guy's not on shoulders. And so he worked his way back up to the front. And I just kept doing the worship thing in the concert. So let me ask you this question. When was the last time that you were accused of something that you didn't do? And I'm going to make the question even a little bit more difficult than that, because I'm talking about something more than I wasn't standing on shoulders, I'm just 6'10". I'm talking about, when is the last time that you've been misjudged? When someone thought the worst of you without really knowing what was going on in your life. For the past 2 Sundays, Pastor Mike has been speaking to us out of the book of Job. And we're going to continue in that, but I want us all to be on the same page here. If you don't have to turn there, but at the beginning of Job in chapter 1, we get this picture of who Job is. It starts off by saying, in the land of Uz, there lived a man whose name was Job. This man was blameless and upright. He feared God and he shunned evil. So it's explaining to us who this guy is. This is a guy that even God has good things to say about. He's saying, this is a guy that he fears me. This is a guy who hates evil. He shuns evil. This is a guy who's upright. He's blameless. He's righteous. This is how God is describing Job. We can also read, if you continue in chapter 1, a little bit about Job's life and his situation. Job had a wife and a large family. It says that he had 7 sons and 3 daughters. On top of the large family, it says that he had an incredible amount of wealth. Wealth at that time was judged a little bit differently than the way we would judge wealth. It's not about the number of dollars in your bank account or the number of vehicles you have or the size of your house. The way that wealth was judged was by the size of the herds of cattle or livestock that you had. And so it actually says that he had thousands and thousands of livestock. And what it's saying is This guy Job was incredibly wealthy for his area and for this time. It goes on to say that he had many servants. I'm sure these servants were to take care of him and his family, but also servants for all of his livestock, for all of the businesses that he had going on. And then it says he was the greatest man among all the people of the East. So he has an incredible family, large family. He has all of this wealth. He has servants. He has all of these things. But on top of that, he's seen as this incredible man in the East. And what that means is he would be sought after for wisdom. There was a level of respect that was given to Job just by the community and maybe even the region that Job was just looked highly upon. And so that's the setting that we have for Job in chapter 1. And then it even goes on to talk a little bit about Job and his faith. Now, it talks about his kids, and they would do things like have parties or have events. And he was so concerned about the faith of his kids that he would take the time after these parties or events that he would worship God by having sacrifices on behalf of his children, and he would pray for his children. So he's a parent that cares deeply about the faith and the relationship that his kids have with God. So as we read that, as you go farther into Job chapter 1, we start to see this interaction about Job between Satan and God. And this interaction, as it goes back and forth, it goes like this, starting in verse 8. Then the Lord said to Satan, "Have you considered my servant Job? There is no one on earth like him. He is blameless and upright, a man who fears God and shuns evil." So we can see what God really thinks of Job. We can see that God's calling him out and saying, look at all of the people in the land. Look at all of the people that you know of. Look at Job. This is a man that truly loves me. This is a man that truly seeks after me. This is a man that is truly upright and righteous. Sometimes I wonder, what kind of words would God use to describe me? Would I be able to reach the bar that Job has set? As Satan replies, does Job fear God for nothing? So what Satan is saying is he's stepping in and he's going, okay, I see that you lift up this guy Job. You show that he is this upright guy, this righteous guy. He's doing all the right things, but he only does that because you've blessed him. He only does that because of the things that you've given him or the ways that you've protected him or the story of his life. He goes on to say in verse 10, have you not put a hedge around him and his household and everything he has? He's saying, you've protected him. You've protected him from all of the bad things in life, and he only has the good things in life. Satan goes on to say, you have blessed the work of his hands so that his flocks and his herds are spread throughout all the land. But now stretch out your hand and strike everything he has, and he will surely curse you to your face. So Satan has this perspective on Job. He says, no, the only reason why he seems righteous and upright is because of the things that you, God, have given him, the protection that you've placed around him. It's not his own doing. In verse 12, the Lord says to Satan, very well then, everything he has is in your power. But on the man himself, do not lay a finger. Then Satan went out from the presence of the Lord. See, Satan claims that the only reason that Job fears God is because of what he can gain. And so in response to this, God permits Satan to test Job. God permits Satan to take all of those things that seem so good and so right away from Job so that Job will prove that he truly is a righteous man. You know, what happens next is incredibly painful. If you know this story, he experiences a loss that I don't even know how to measure or to compare to. It actually says in the scriptures that in one day he lost all of his wealth. Along with all the wealth would go his position, the fact that people looked up to him and respected him. The same day he lost all of his servants. So all the people that were around him were gone. And it even says on that day that all 10 of his kids were lost. And at least he has his health, but eventually that was taken from him too. And as I read that, all I can think is that is one heck of a day. To have all of the great things in life stripped away at the same time. And I think it might be unfair for us to attempt to compare our lives to Job because of how intense that looks and that sounds. But I also know that I've had some days in my life also. Maybe not in the exact same way that Job did, but I've had some days. And I would guess that many of you have had those days also. You've had those days where maybe you didn't lose your whole family and all your wealth. Maybe everything didn't turn bad, but you've had one of those days where you look at it and you think, why? Why does it keep piling up? You have a day or days where you start to question, where is God in all of this? After the first chapter of Job, and we see this interaction, and then we see his life completely fall apart, we get this string of chapters in Job where the people that love Job confront him and interact with him and attempt to give him advice. And so chapters 2 going all the way up to chapter 18, we see different people that say they care about Job. And I think they genuinely do at some level. They bring to him words that they feel like are wisdom or things that Job needs to hear. For instance, in Job chapter 2, verse 9, his wife said to him, "Are you still maintaining your integrity? Curse God and die." The person that should stand beside Job and love him more than any other says, why would you still believe in God? Why would you still believe that God is good? Why would you still believe that God is for you? He obviously isn't. And let's just be honest, that's what the world tells us. When things don't go our way as Christians, that's what the world says to us. How can there be a God? Look at what's happening in your life. Look at how bad that situation. How can there be a God? How can you actually believe that God is for you when this is happening to you? That's the message that the world wants us to hear. In Job chapter 4, we see another interaction. In verse 8 it says, and this is his friend Eliphaz speaking to Job. He says, "As I have observed, those who plow evil and those who sow trouble, they reap it. At the breath of God, they perish. At the blast of his anger, they are no more." This is his friend that's coming to him and saying, the people that plow evil, the people that sow the seed of evil, they're going to reap evil. So what his friend is saying to him is, your life, all of this evil has happened to you, so the only thing that will make sense of this is you have been evil. You have done something wrong. You have messed up. You have sinned. You are in the wrong with God. Therefore, you have sowed evil and you will reap evil. He gets this bad advice from his friend. You jump into chapter 8, verse 20. Another friend, Bildad, approaches him. And in his conversation, he says, "Surely God does not reject the one who is blameless, or strengthen the hand of evildoers." He's saying to Job, if you don't want to be rejected by God, then you need to be blameless. He also is given the same message. There's something about your life that proves that you are not blameless. There's something wrong in your life. You have been in the wrong. You've done something wrong. And this is just God reacting to the things that you have done. So we see those interactions in the book of Job, this advice that's given to him by different people that say that they care for him. And that gets us towards chapter 19. Job is in chapter 19, and he is physically broken. He is sick. It says that he has boils and disease all over his body. He's lost his whole family. Even his wife now, it seems, hates him. He has all of these things that have gone on in his life that he's experienced incredible pain and trial and suffering and loss. In his state, he's emotionally drained. And I can imagine that he feels abandoned by everybody. They've all brought these accusations against him. The question I have is, where is his faith? He must be spiritually confused. He's a righteous man that loves God, but then his friends and his wife say, you need to curse this God. This God, he wouldn't do this to you unless you've done something wrong. He's getting this information from his friends, this advice from his friends, and it doesn't make sense to him. He doesn't believe that he's done something wrong. What would his faith look like in this moment? He has to be thinking, why is God allowing this to happen to me? His future looks like there's no hope. It looks like everything is lost. And honestly, that makes sense to us. When we look at his story, it makes sense. It'd be tough for us to blame him for thinking that. Just like in our lives, when we face trials, when we face suffering and loss, it's tough to blame ourselves when we think that. Honestly, sitting here today, some of you might even have those thoughts and feelings right now. You might be facing things in life. You might be dealing with struggles or trials, and you might be thinking, where is God? Why has he left me? I've been abandoned. Where's my faith? In Job chapter 19, he speaks. Job speaks in verse 2, and he says, how long will you torture me? And now when you just read that verse, you think, who's he saying? Is he saying this to God? But he's actually saying this to one of his friends that's giving him this bad advice. He says to his friend, how long will you torture me? How long will you try to crush me with your words? You have already insulted me 10 times. You should be ashamed of treating me so badly. Even if I have sinned, that is my concern, not yours. You think you're better than I am, using my humiliation as evidence of my sin. He's saying the accusations that you're having against me, they're not helping me. They're not changing my situation. They're actually wounding me deeper. They're making the situation worse. He's feeling crushed. He's not feeling comforted by the people that should care for him. He says, you've insulted me 10 times. In other words, what he's saying is, over and over and over, you're saying these things, and aren't you getting tired of it? Aren't you? You're piling the shame on top of me because of the things that have happened in my life. Aren't you getting tired of this? And then he has this statement that he makes in verse 4. It says, even if I have sinned, that is my concern, not yours. He's not admitting guilt to them. He's not saying to them, I know I've sinned. But what he's saying to them is, even if I have, why does that concern you? You're in the middle of judging me, and you're in the middle of judging my heart for what's going on in my life, and you have no idea. Let me ask you, when is the last time you had someone judge your heart and they didn't know what was going on? Sometimes people might question or judge our hearts, and there might be a little bit of truth to the judgment that they have, and maybe that's something that God can use in our lives, but I think there's just as many times where we get judged by people around us. We get judged by judged on what's inside of us, what's in our heart, and they're just wrong. They're just downright wrong. Finally, Job says, you think you're better than me. He says, you're using the pain that I have to prove the point that you want to make in my life. They take his suffering as this evidence of some type of guilt that he has. but they've missed what is going on in his heart. They've also missed the heart of God. Then Job, in this chapter, shares what he thinks about God. And he's in a low place. He's in a dark place. In verse 6, he says, "But it is God who has wronged me. He has captured me in his net. I cry out, 'Help,' but no one answers me. I protest, but there's no justice." He's showing where he is in his belief in God. Something about the situation and then the advice from his friends and his wife have brought him to a place where he goes, this has to be God that is judging me. This has to be God that is doing this in my life. He says, "I protest, but there is no justice." Man, how many times have I wanted justice? How many times have I asked God for justice? I bet some of you have asked God for justice. There's things that have happened in your life. You go, "God, if you could just bring justice in this, make this right. Show the people that I'm not in the wrong." He goes on and he says, "He has stripped me of my honor. He's removed the crown from my head. He's demolished me on every side, and I'm finished. He has uprooted my hope like a fallen tree. His fury burns against me. He counts me as an enemy." He says, God counts me as an enemy. He sees God as this warrior or this general that has this army that's coming against him. In verse 12, his troops advance. They build up roads to attack me. They camp all around my tent. He feels like he's surrounded by God. He's surrounded by God's army. See, Job thinks that God is the one that is doing this to him. He feels trapped. He says, "I'm crying out for help and there's no answer." Now, I want you to listen to me. In our lives, when we face pain or trial or struggle, our view of who God is becomes warped and twisted, and we start to believe the wrong things about who God is. And that's exactly what's going on in Job. He thinks that God is against him. We know he's not. We know God's not against him. We know God's for him. But when we face those same types of things in life, our vision also will become twisted or warped in how we see the God that loves us. My family has a 15-passenger van that we drive as a daily driver because we're big people. There's only 6 of us. I know there's another family that attends here that has way more kids than us. They have a matching 15-passenger van, but we love driving our 15-passenger van. Here's what I really like the most about it, other than I can make the kids be really far away, is that the windshield is massive on this thing. And so you're right at the front of the van, and the view is actually, it's really easy to drive. I feel like I can just see everything in front of me. Behind me, different story. You really can't see anything behind. But in front, this incredible view because this huge windshield that's right in front of me. One time, a few years back, as a family, we decided that we were going to head up north to visit family the day after Christmas. And that's what every person in South Carolina says. Oh, in the dead of winter, I want to drive as far north as I can and find the most weather that is out there. And so we're traveling the day after Christmas. We're headed up north, and we know that there's going to be some bad weather along the way. We see the weather report, and as we start going, we get pretty far north. We're 2-3 hours away from where we're trying to actually get to, and the weather is it's starting to accumulate on the sides of the road. Things are turning a little bit white. Now, the lanes on the interstate, they're still fine. We can still drive through these, except there's kind of this slush that's on them, and this water, and it's mixed with the salt and all this dirt. And so everything that's driving by us is spraying this up onto our van. And so this incredible windshield that gives me this great view is now covered with all this filth and nastiness and the salt and the dirt that's spraying up from all the cars that are driving by us. And at the same time, it's so cold out that there's freezing rain that's falling. And so on the roof and the hood and the sides and the mirrors, the rain falls and it instantly is freezing on the van. And it's also freezing on our windshield wipers, which presents a little bit of a problem because as they go back and forth across the windshield, they take all of this filth and mess and all they do is wipe it and streak it and leave this terrible picture of what was a great view in front of me, and now all that I see are these streaks of dirt and filth and salt and frozenness right here on the windshield in front of me. I'm sure some of you have been in a spot like that where you've been driving and maybe the rain was so hard that you really couldn't see in front of you very well. The windshield wipers weren't really doing their job as much as they should. And so you're trying to travel, but it doesn't feel safe. You don't really know where you're going. And let me just remind you, the road has not changed. They didn't, as it started to rain and as my view started to change, they didn't repave the road in a different direction that was different than what the map says. They haven't taken the path that I need to follow and direct it in a different direction compared to what it's supposed to be. The path is the same. The difference is that the view has been warped or changed. When you're in the middle of something in your life, it is easy for the view of God to be warped or changed. It'll become distorted, and that's exactly what happened with Job. If the events of life only twisted our view of God, that'd be one thing, but there's so much more that it can do. In 1972, there's this story about this airplane flight with Eastern Air, and this flight was going from New York down the coast to Miami, and they took off fine. Everything worked like normal when they took off. They were headed down to Miami. As they're coming towards Miami, they have to go out over the Everglades where it's all dark. There's nothing there. It's at night. And as they're coming in towards Miami, the pilot notices that on the instrument cluster in front of him, there's a spot where there's these three lights. These three lights are the landing gear lights, and they show whether or not the landing gear are working correctly. So there's one light for the front nose gear, and then there's one light for each of the rear landing gear. And so they see that one of these lights is not working correctly. It's not lit up how it's supposed to be. And so the pilot talks to the co-pilot, and they call the flight engineer, and the three of them are huddled around this light, and then they start to troubleshoot what could be causing the landing gear to fail. They're checking hydraulics, they're checking the electrical, they're trying to figure out what do we need to do to make sure this landing gear is safe for us to land the plane. Unfortunately, in the middle of them troubleshooting, trying to figure out what is wrong with our landing gear, what is wrong with this light, the pilot, with his arm or his leg, bumps the control yoke that controls the plane. And in this particular type of plane, if you take the control yoke and you move it, it automatically takes the autopilot off. The whole crew's dialed in on this one issue of what's wrong with the landing gear, and they don't even notice that the autopilot has been disengaged by accident. And the plane gets lower and lower and lower to the ground. The plane eventually crashes, and they study the plane and the cockpit afterwards, and they realize through all of their study that the plane crashed because the entire crew was focused on a $12 light bulb that had burned out. They thought something else was going on, but it took all of their focus. This one light bulb took all of their focus away from what they were really supposed to be doing. They're here to fly the plane, not just figure out the light bulb, but their focus was drawn away from what they were supposed to be about. It's so easy for us to let one thing distract us from what we're supposed to really be about. In Matthew chapter 14, we see this incredible story of Jesus performing miracles. The story, if you recall it, is of him with a crowd of people, and the people are hungry, And so they find 5 loaves and 2 fish. And Jesus takes this small meal and he blesses it, and then he starts to break it and divide it. The disciples take the food out to these multitude of people that are hungry, and they feed everybody in the crowd, the 5,000 men plus women and children, with this small meal. And not only do they feed all the people, but they collect all the extras, and the amount that is left over is larger than the original meal. Jesus feeds the people. And then he tells the disciples that he needs time to be alone to pray. He's tired. He's spiritually tired. He needs time with God. So he takes the disciples and he says, get on this boat, and I want you to go across the Sea of Galilee. I'll meet you on the other side. I'm going to stay here by myself to pray while you go, and then I'll meet you there. So the disciples agree, they get on their boat and they go. Jesus goes and he goes to pray by himself. And as the disciples go out into the Sea of Galilee at 3 a.m, the scriptures say that the winds came and the waves came, and they were in this massive storm, and they're huddled in this boat. They think they're going to die. In the middle of this experience that they're having, they look out and they see a ghost walking on the water. And in Matthew chapter 14, it says, when the disciples saw him walking on the water, they were terrified. In their fear, they cried out, "It's a ghost." But Jesus spoke to them at once. "Don't be afraid," he said. "Take courage. I am here." Then Peter called to him, "Lord, if it is really you, tell me to come to you walking on the water." I'll be honest with you, if I'm in the boat with the disciples, if I'm one of the 12, I'm not Peter. I am certainly going to be one of the other 11 that's huddled in the bottom of the boat, that's worried for their life, that sees a ghost. Peter, though, he's like, "Ghost? Oh, you're Jesus." Peter doesn't say, "Jesus, come get in the boat with us." Peter says, "Let me get out into the storm with you." And so Jesus says, "Yes, come walk on the water." And so Peter walks out onto the water and finds himself in the middle of this storm with Jesus. In verse 29, so Peter went over the side of the boat. He walked on the water towards Jesus. And if we were to stop reading this story right there, that's a pretty amazing story. If that's all we knew that Jesus can walk on water and then he can make other people walk on water, that's a pretty amazing story. He is God. Peter was not, though. But that's not the whole story that we get. In verse 30, it says, "But when he saw, Peter, saw the strong wind and the waves, he was terrified and he began to sink." You see, in life, things come up that can warp our view of God. But there's this other thing that can happen, just like it happened to Peter here. In life, we can face things that are trials and struggles and difficulties. They don't just warp our view, they actually take our view completely away from God altogether. That's how it happens, though, right? Your car breaks down, and now that gets all of your energy. How do I gotta replace my car, I gotta fix my car. This is gonna hold me up. Work doesn't go as planned, or maybe there's massive deadlines that are coming your way. There's huge pressure at work. Think, this is going to take all my attention, and it does. Maybe your kid makes a poor choice, or a whole string of poor choices back to back to back. And our gaze is now on, what do I do about my kid? Maybe there's a relationship that has tension, or worse, it's just not going how you hoped it would go. It steals our view away from God onto the thing we're going through, the thing you're going through. See, we have Jesus who multiplies food, who feeds the multitudes. We have Jesus who walks on water. We have Jesus that then calls Peter out to walk with him. We have Jesus who, once he gets in the boat, calms the storm. We have Jesus who says that he is our Savior, yet we get our vision distracted and turned away by the things that happen in life. My question for you is, what is it today, or this week, or this year, that's happening in your life that is taking your gaze, your view of God, and it's pulling it completely away from him. Perhaps you're even sitting here thinking, I don't know if I ever fully had my gaze on him. Job didn't have the whole picture of what was going on in his life. His friends couldn't see what was really happening. We get to read chapter 1. We get to see God and Satan discussing who Job is. We can read how God called Job a righteous person and how God viewed Job. We can even get to jump to the end of this story if we read ahead, and we can see how Job had so many things restored in his life because of the faith that he had. We get to see this incredible bigger picture of the whole story of Job as it plays out in front of us, but we don't get that for our lives. We don't get to see the end of the trial while we're in the middle of it. We don't get to see the inside of what God is doing around us that we can't see. When we were driving to Michigan, the windshield is streaky and the weather's freezing. I found that the spray from the other vehicles had enough salt in it that when it sprayed up onto my windshield, it helped to melt my windshield wipers, and I could use them to actually see where I was going. So I found myself driving directly behind this big rig truck right on his bumper because the spray coming off of him helped to keep my vision clear. If he had to brake, I knew that I had to brake. If he needed to change lanes, I knew that I needed to change lanes. I knew that he was going to stay on the road, and all I had to do was tuck in right behind him, and then I could follow him. He could be my guide as I went on my journey. In Job chapter 19, in verse 8, he says about God, he has plunged my path into darkness. I followed the truck because it gave me a clear view. I knew exactly where I needed to go. I needed that guide. We all create guides in our life. Some of us, it's our intellect. It's the things we know, the things we understand. That can be our guide in life. For some of us, we create guides that give us this sense of safety. Maybe it's financially, it's the amount of money we have or the job that we have. It might be the status that we hold with the people around us. For some of us, it might be our family, and they are the guide for us. Ask Job about all those things. Is it time to stop trying to do it for yourself, and is it time for you to trust and lean on Jesus? 2 Corinthians chapter 4, verse 18 says, "So we fix our eyes not on what is seen, but what is unseen. Since what is seen is temporary, but what is unseen is eternal." See, God is keenly aware. He's keenly aware that where our eyes are fixed plays an incredible role on what we depend on. In the middle of his trials, Job has this moment where his eyes become fixed on the unseen. In Job chapter 19, we read in verse 25, Job says, "But as for me, I know that my Redeemer lives, and he will stand upon this earth at last. And after my body has decayed, yet in my body I will see God. I will see him for myself. Yes, I will see him with my own eyes. I am overwhelmed at the thought." In this moment, Job didn't let his view of God be warped by his trials and by his struggles and even by the advice from his friends. He fixed his eyes on the unseen. He knew that he needed God to be his Redeemer. A Redeemer is one that buys back. A Redeemer is one that rescues. A Redeemer is one that restores. The truth is every single one of us need a Redeemer. There's something else that Job understood that I think that we need to see. He acknowledged that he needed the Redeemer, but he didn't associate that with my life will all be made better. In fact, if you look in verse 26, he talks about even after his body has decayed, he's implying perhaps even after death, I will still be redeemed and I'll get to see my Redeemer. Maybe this won't fix everything here on earth, but I still know that I need a Redeemer. In the book of Matthew, we left Peter and he's sinking into the sea, into the water. He sees the storm around us and it takes his gaze off of Christ onto the storm. And in Matthew 14, in verse 30, Peter cries out, "Save me, Lord." Jesus immediately reached out and grabbed him and said, "You have so little faith. Why do you doubt me?" Then he climbed back in the boat and the wind stopped. Peter was in the storm. He no longer saw Jesus because of all the things that were around him. The situation that he found himself in, his vision was taken away from God and it was to the things that were impacting his life. What is it that is impacting your life? What are the waves? What is the wind right now for you? Even though Peter lost sight of Jesus, Jesus was always there. And even in our trials, when they get our attention, when they take our gaze off of Christ, Jesus is always with us. We know that God can calm storms. We know that he can change our situation, but he doesn't always. And even if he doesn't, he will walk us through the things that we face. Can we let that be enough? Just like Peter calls out to Jesus that he is the one that saves, and he doesn't promise to change the situation. There's no one else that I would want other than Jesus to be my Redeemer, to save me, to ride alongside of me in the storm. Proverbs chapter 3 and verse 5, it says, "Trust in the Lord with all your heart. Lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways acknowledge him, and he will direct your paths." Will you call out to Jesus in the middle of whatever you face? Will you take your gaze off of what is in your life and put it back on Christ? Will you take your twisted understanding that the world has caused in your life, the twisted understanding about who God is, and will you allow that to change to understand that God is there for you and wants you? Is that something you'd be willing to do today? Let me pray for us. Jesus, thank you for the stories we read. Thank you for how you challenge us in your word. Thank you that you are always there for us no matter what we face in life. We see the story of Job and we're challenged by that. And I pray this over us out of Psalm 121. I lift my eyes to the mountains. Where does my help come from? My help comes from the Lord, the maker of heaven and earth. Oh God, help us to lift our eyes to you. Help us to find our help in you. You're our Redeemer. You're our Maker. And I pray that no matter what we face, you would allow us to give it to you and turn to you, and that you would walk alongside of us through everything that comes our way. Jesus, we love you and we thank you. We pray this in your name. Amen. Thank you for coming today, and I pray that God goes with you and brings you peace.